Okay, good morning and welcome to Just Daf It. Daf Yomi Shir. We're learning Yevamos Samachtet 69. We have a special free share for you today. We're going to be learning more about Bas Kohen to Israel, Kohen to Israelis, eating Truma, not eating Truma, Nivelis, apostle, not apostle. Here we go. Let's pick it up about 5 lines down. It's in the middle of a discussion. The Gemara says, "Ve'ema mishiyesh lo almanas v'gerishin ba kileis zera ka'achla, kileis zera lo achla, mishein lo almanas v'gerishin ba afagav de'isa zera nami teichol." We left out yesterday, learning out. We've talked about yesterday, about if a woman who's a kohenes or a Leviah Yisrael, she's developed to a apostle, meaning a zar, or someone who's apostle to her, a mamzer and a sin, and she's not allowed to be married to him, she's not allowed to be with him. That's only chivei lavin, right? So if she's developed that person, she becomes a zona. She can't eat truma anymore. She can't marry a kohen anymore. And the Gemara asks, what about chayvei krisos? And the Gemara has a different pasuk for chayvei krisos, right? The Gemara says, "Misheyesh lo almana v'gerushin." It says, "Bas kohen kisi almana v'grusha." Only when she's subject to almanas v'gerushin. Chayvei krisos, she can never be married to them. She can never be a widow or a grusha from them. So therefore, if she's chayvei krisos, she can't go back to her father's house. She becomes puzzle from that bia. So the Gemara says maybe it's worse to be developed to a chayvei lavin than chayvei krisos. For example, misheyesh almana v'gerushin ba'kileis zera ka'achla. If there's almanas v'gerushin, she's developed to someone who's puzzle to her only midin lav. Therefore, she could technically be married to them. Kedushin tosin b'chayvei lavin. When she doesn't have a child for them, she eats ki'isla zera lo achla. When she has a child from that forbidden union, then she doesn't get it. When chayvei krisos avagav isay zera nami teichol. If she has a child from that forbidden chayvei krisos union or from an eved akum, she can eat. She can eat. And we say it's sort of like an opposite svara that even though it's more chomer, but since it's learning a different pasuk, so we born more makel. If she has a child for them, they could eat. And the fact that the Torah is going the opposite way, the Torah is talking about a kohenes, bas kohen gzeli, and then it says ubas to larabos Leviah v'Yisraelis. So therefore, the Torah is saying, right, because you have kedushas kahuna, so therefore, if you don't have kedushas kahuna, you're a Leviah Yisraelis. I wouldn't have thought. Meaning the Torah is going in the direction of kula when the aveira is not so severe. You're not a kohenes. You're Leviah Yisraelis. I would have thought not that way. Torah comes to add even a Leviah Yisraelis. So the Torah is going in the direction of going from chomer to kal, meaning a kohenes has kedushas kahuna. So how do you know you're Leviah Yisraelis, which is less kedushas kahuna? Now, us to say this logic, we'd be saying that chayvei lavin is more makel, is more machmir than chayvei krisos. The chayvei krisos, which is a worse aveira, would be more makel, that they had a child, should be able to eat. It doesn't make any sense. The fact that we include Leviah Yisrael, we're going the opposite direction, that we're going, if the bia is less severe, then there's less reason to have problems. If the bia is more severe, of course, there's going to be more problems. You can't say that. So the Gemara says, well, Rabbi Akiva, now according to Rabbi Akiva, the Amar Kedushin Tovsim Chayvei Lavin, he holds that even by Chayvei Lavin, there's no Kedushin. Umay Kisiel Izar. What does it mean, Kisiel Izar? Right? Kisiel, we've interpreted according to Rabbanan, who hold that Kedushin Tovsim Chayvei Lavin. Kisiel means Kedushin, but according to Rabbi Akiva, it must be Bia. It can't be Kedushin, because he holds Kedushin is Tovsim Chayvei Lavin. Kisi Boy Alman of a Grusha Lamali. Right? So then what do you need Alman of a Grusha for? What do you need the second pasuk for? So the Gemara says you need it for two things: almana lahachmer and grusha lahakla. Almana to make a chomer and grusha to make a kula. Sricha. We're going to see exactly what they are. The yeshma, and almana who the chiles zara achla. And almana, right? When she is a kohenes and she's an almana, she's widowed from her husband. When she doesn't have children from him, she goes back to her father. Mishum dechazia lakuna. Ava grusha. Let's say she gets divorced, right? A kohenes gets divorced from her husband. She can't marry. Now she's puzzled. She's asked her to a kohen. Ema avagav delesla zara. Even if she has no children from that union with the Yisrael, lo achla, she can't go back to her father's house. Kamash malan. No, she could go back. Yes, mean grusha. If you just said the word grusha, grusha hu dechiyisla zara lo achla. Grusha divorced woman, when she has children, she can't go back to her father's house because the grusha is more chomer. She can't be married to a kohen. Almana the chazi lakuna, an almana who technically fit to marry a kohen, not a kohen gadol, but a kohen. Even if she has children from that Yisrael, Nami Teichel, she can go back to her father's house to eat. Sricha, tell me no, the same halacha applies whether she's divorced or widowed from the husband. She can go back to her father as long as she doesn't have children. If she has children, in both cases, she can't go back. If she becomes nivel to apostola, af machzir grushaso, right? There's also an issue in the Torah, machzir grushaso, right? If you divorced a wife and she marries somebody else, and then she gets that husband dies, or she divorces from him, or gets divorced from him, and you marry her again, machzir grushaso. There's also a law in the Torah, but we know that doesn't pass her. It says specifically the word is zar, a foreigner. Now, machzir grushaso is not a foreigner. She was married to this guy before, so therefore it wouldn't be included in the pasuk in passing her to eat truma. So the law of zaro mikara lifsal. If she's nivelas to a halal, right, someone who's born out of the union of going to a grusha, an almana to kohen gadol is a halal, right? She shouldn't. We know that it's not true. The Bryce said before, if she's nivelas to a halal, she is possible. Amar kro lo yichal zaro ba'amav makis zaro lo. It compares the child of the kohen to the kohen. Mahu posel av zaro anami posel. Just like a kohen was a halal is possible. So too, his child, a halal, also apostles, right? And a kohen who marries an almana, a kohen marries a grusha, he apostles her, he's machal her, and he also an almana marrying a kohen gadol marrying an almana would apostle her. So therefore, the child also apostles. Ema mishas havaya dumiyah the kohen gadol almana. Maybe it's only when they get married, not with the bia. The Gemara says, "Do me the kohen gadol." No, you can't say that. It's like going to the almana, ma kohen gadol almana, but bia. Even just bia apostles. Her af hai nami bia. Here also, just with bia, halal or any of the psulim with bia would apostle. Ema the ika havayo bia. Maybe you need both marriage and bia. Do me the kohen gadol almana, ma kohen gadol almana, but bia lechuda. Just with bia itself, hai nami bia lechuda. Rabbi Yossi Omer. We're back to the original Bryce. We had three opinions basically saying the same thing. Any one of your child is apostle, so you're going to apostle. If your child is not apostle, it doesn't apostle you. What's the practical difference in Tanakh and Yossi? They're basically saying the same thing. The halacha is that a convert who's an Egyptian or a convert is a Domi, right? Their first generation, when he converts, he's Asr. His child, who's a second generation convert, is Asr. The third generation is Mutter. So when the Mitzri Sheni marries this woman, right, marries the Kohenis, does he pass her? Or Levi, Yisrael, does he pass her? It's a Bias Asr. So according to the Tanakh, it's a Bias Isra, it would pass her. But according to Rabbi Yossi, the Zera depends on when the Zera is possible. The Zera for Mitzri Sheni is the Mitzri Shlishi. Mitzri Shlishi Yava Bakalasha. Mitzri Shlishi or an Adomi Shlishi is allowed to marry into the Kal, so therefore it wouldn't passel that Bia. They both learned that the prototype of Kohen Gadol to Almana. Kohen Gadol Almana should be also about Vero Postel, Afainami Postel, and I'm Kohen Gadol, right? What's going on over there? It's the Bia is the relationship between the two produces an Avera. It's also them to be together, a Postel and apostles. Here also apostles by Mitzri Sheni and Domi. Yossi Savar Kohen Gadol, Kohen Gadol, Zara Apostle, Postel. There, the child is apostle and he postels. Afkol Zara Apostle, Postel, Afuki Mitzri Sheni, the Ein Zara Apostle. His child, the union of a Mitzri Sheni and a woman, it's also for them, but the child is not apostle. The Ksiv, Bonim Asher Yoldu Lahem, Dor Shlish Yav Lahem Kal Hashem. The third generation are allowed to come to the Kal Hashem, so therefore, according to Yossi, it wouldn't apostle the woman from Truma. Another way of saying basically the same thing. What's the practical difference between opinion 2 and opinion 3? A convert from Ammon and Moab, meaning obviously Ammon and Moab is a convert also, right? She married a woman who was novellis to an Ammoni and Moabi. It's also in the Torah. The difference is Geramoni and Moabi is that If you have a son from them, an Ammoni or Moabi, it's also usher to marry them. But if the daughter is not usher to marry. So that's going to have a practical difference over here. She'el do el kohen gadol b'almana. Rabbi Yossi said, "Ma kohen gadol b'almana shezar apostle posel afkol shezar apostle posel." Depends on whether the child is apostle, so therefore it apostle the mother also. She'el omer said, "Ma kohen gadol b'almana shekol zaro apostle." Any union of kohen gadol b'almana, whether they have a son or a daughter, it's apostle uposel, and the biyat of the kohen to the kohen gadol b'almana would apostle her. Afkol shezar apostle posel afuge amoni moavi the ain kol zaro apostle. Not all of their progeny is possible. Amar Mar Amoni v'Amonis Moavi l'Moavis. We paskin the only person that's forbidden to marry from Ammon and Moab is a male Ammon and Moab. A female descendant from them, Ammon and Moab, is mutter to marry into Klal Yisrael, and therefore, according in that case of her being together with a Ger Ammoni Moavi, it wouldn't passel her from eating truma and marrying a Kohen. The Mishnah says, "Ha'ones ha'mafate v'ashota lo postim lo machilin." If a woman was raped or she's seduced v'ashota, or you're married to a Kohen who's a shota, lo postil machilin, it doesn't passel in these cases for eating truma, but also doesn't give you the ability to eat. Yisrael, we're going to see, we saw based on the Gemara, these are talking about psulei kahuna, halal, harei lo postil, it would passel, ketzad. Yisrael shabal bas Kohen, Yisrael is together with the daughter of a Kohen, tochel b'truma, right? She could still eat truma, even though she was raped or seduced, it was out of the contract of marriage, she can still eat truma. She's still part of her father's house. But Ibra, if she became pregnant from this union, lo tochal b'truma, she can't eat truma. Nechdach ha'ubar b'me'ah, if somehow the child died in her womb, was killed, or essentially nechdach over b'me'ah, because she had a miscarriage. Nechdach over sounds like it was intentionally done, because the Torah sanctioned abortion. Maybe that's what it means over here. The Torah is saying abortion is okay. Don't know. Tochal, she could eat because she's not pregnant from him anymore. Haya Kohen Shabal Bas Yisrael. Kohen as extramarital out of the contract of marriage, bia with a Bas Yisrael. Tochal, but Truma doesn't allow her to eat Truma. Ibra, Tochal, even if she's pregnant, right? Only an uber is not considered enough to make her be able to eat. Yalda tocha, but if she has a child from it, even though it's out of the contract of marriage, she could eat on account of the child. Nimsa koko shalbein gadol mishalav, right? The bia to the father didn't empower her to eat truma, but the son does empower her to eat truma. In this halacha, I'm going to give the basis of my Iyun Ben Sion share about the nature of the ability of a woman married or nivelis to a Kohen. Right, the Kohen being Michael, his wife in Truma, what is that based on? And what is, if he dies and she has a child, so Kohen, she still gets to eat Truma. Is there a difference in the two? The same, we'll get into that in Yud Ben Sion. V'yaldei mano ben v'halach ketzad. I'm sorry. Ha'eved posel mishum bia, ve'eno posel mishum zera. The Eved, right, Eved Knaini, if he's together with a woman, he passes her, ve'eno posel mishum zera. There's a child with her who doesn't pass. Okay, so Bas Yisrael a Kohen. What's the case? A Bas Yisrael marries a Kohen, a Bas Kohen Yisrael. Or the daughter of a Kohen marries Yisrael. V'yalda himanu ben. They had a child together, a son. V'halach habeh v'nichbash al shifcha. The son goes and is together with a shifcha knainis. V'yalda himanu ben. And they have a son with this. It's ultimately their grandson. Right? They have another son who is a product of the shifcha knainis. Harei Eved, right? You go after the mother. The mother, even though the father was a Jew, the mother was a Shifcha Knaina. So therefore, the progeny is the din of an Eved. Haisa Em Aviv Bas Yisrael a Kohen. So now go back to the grandparents. If the grandmother was the daughter of Yisrael married to a Kohen, lo tochal b'truma. She can't eat truma because she has progeny who's an Eved. Bas Kohen Yisrael, if the Bas Kohen had a relationship with Yisrael, tochal b'truma. She could eat truma. It wouldn't passel her because if she can go back to her father's house and she could eat truma because the Eved is not considered a progeny. Mamzer posel and Michael. Mamzer has the ability to passel and to feed. Ketzad Bas Yisrael a Kohen. They were married to Kohen, Bas Kohen Yisrael. But Yadim and Bas, they had a daughter. V'halcha Bas v'nisis la Eved olav kol chavim. The daughter goes and she marries an Eved Knayin or Kochavim. Right? This child, this grandchild's a mamzer. It was to be the same thing as Chayvei Krisos. It's actually machlokas whether the kid is a mamzer or not, but this mission assumes the child's a mamzer. I say aim imo bas Yisrael Kohen. So got back to the grandparents. If the grandmother was Yisrael, the daughter of Yisrael married to a Kohen, tochel b'truma. She gets to eat truma on the account of this grandson, even though he's a mamzer, she's still progeny. Because the Kohen, she's still part of Mishpachas Kahuna. Bas Kohen the Yisrael, if the grandparents was the daughter of a Kohenes marrying Yisrael, tochel b'truma, she can't eat truma because she has a child. She can't go back to her father's house. A grandchild is enough to disallow her from going back to her parents' house to eat truma. Kohen Gadol, Pamim Shu Posel, sometimes the Kohen Gadol, sometimes Pasel. Ketzad. Bas Kohen the Yisrael, daughter of a Kohen married to Yisrael, Yaldim in a Bas. They had a daughter. V'halcha Bas v'nisis the Kohen. Daughter went and married a Kohen. V'yaldim in a Ben, and they had a child. That's a grandchild for the grandparents. Or he's a royal Kohen Gadol. He could technically be a Kohen Gadol if he's appointed a Kohen Gadol. He'll be a Kohen Gadol. Omen Mishamash got Mizbeach. He can serve on and be over on the Mizbeach. Machil es imo posal emimo. He enables, the fact that he's alive enables his mother to eat, right? His mother is considered Yisraelis. She was born to a Kohenes who was married to Yisrael, so it's a family of Yisrael. Rosenberg, they don't take the name Cohen. But now the daughter married a Kohen, so she's a family of Kohen. So the child has the ability to feed her mother because it's part of the Kohen. They're part of the Kohen family. Posel Emo, he passes the grandmother because he's still alive, so therefore there's still progeny from her original marriage to the Yisrael, so therefore there's also marriage lo Kohen Gadol. She's upset, even though he's a Kohen Gadol, or even if he was a Kohen, she passes her in Truma because the progeny is still there. She can't, even though she was the grandmother, was the daughter of a Kohen, and she would be a Kohenes, but because she has progeny still around, so therefore she can't go back to her father's house to eat Truma. The Gemara says, Tanina Laha. We know the first din in the Mishnah. The Brisa says, whether you're a katan or a shota, a mentally deranged person, you have psychiatric problems, you marry a woman and they die, right? There's no din of yibum or chalitza. The marriage never took effect in the beginning, so therefore, even when you die, the brother does not, of the brother, the shota or the katan, does not have the chiyuv, does not have the chiyuv to do yibum. There's no chalitza, no yibum, no contrary because no chalitza or yibum. He wasn't married. Ketzad haya Yisrael shabal bas kohen tochal b'truma ibra lo tochal. Kevan the ibra, once she became pregnant, lo tochal. Leicha shema ibra. We're only saying if we know she's pregnant. Even if we don't know she's pregnant, right? She shouldn't be able to eat. She shouldn't be able to go back to her father's house because maybe she is pregnant. Milos nan mafrishin osan gimel chadashim shema mubros hein. We had a Mishnah earlier on that if people got mixed up when they were married to the wrong woman, so we separate them for 3 months to find out who the father is. So we're concerned maybe they had a child. So why are we concerned over here? There, it's a problem. We don't know who the father is, so we wanted to make sure we know who the father is. Here, it's just a question of eating truma. So it's a miyut. Most women don't necessarily become pregnant out of one bia. It's a miyut. So they weren't choshesh for that. Truma lo chashashu. Truma not choshesh. Vatanya. So you make a t'nai, you make a stipulation when you give a get to a woman. The get should go into effect 1 minute before I die, right? Because he doesn't want her to fall to yibum. He doesn't want, so he wants to give her a get before he dies. Asur lecha with truma immediately miyad. She can't eat truma miyad, right? In a certain sense, the get takes effect right away, and she's only allowed to eat truma on the fact that she's married to a kohen, and now she's like divorced. So we're choshesh over there that he might die right away. The reason is we're choshesh he might die right away, and therefore, every second when she puts truma into the mouth, maybe the husband's dead and she's eating truma when she's not allowed to. The Gemara says, they were choshesh when there's a contract of marriage, but here it's just nus, right? We said in the onus mafata in our Mishnah, we're talking about promiscuity. We're not talking about rape or seduction out of marriage, extracurricular activities. So therefore, by znus they weren't choshesh. Because by znus, the woman is going to try to make sure she's not pregnant. She'll do preventative measures. She'll try to take out the zera or put something in to make sure that she doesn't become impregnated. That we're not worried she's impregnated. By nisun, are we worried about Tanya? Bas Cohen, the daughter of a Cohen, she needs to Israel mace, and he dies. Tovelas v'alchelas b'truma la'erev, she could be tovel and go back to her father's house and eat truma at night. Right, you have to be a state of tower to eat truma. Amar Rav Chisda tovelas v'alchelas arboim. All this Bryce meant to say is that she can eat truma until 40 days after her husband died. If she's not pregnant, even if she is pregnant, until 40 days, the fetus is considered like water. So for sure, I think abortion would be okay in this case. It's considered like water. And then it has no significance, so therefore it's not like she has progeny from the Israel, so therefore she can go back to her father's house. But after 40 days, we're worried she's pregnant. I'm like, Abayi, say the end of the price. A hooker uber of meyeh, once it's recognizable, usually after 3 months, you can tell a woman's pregnant. She should be mikol kelas mafreya. We established she's mikol kelas mafreya. Her eating truma was a problem. My mikol kelas at our boy. No, it's only a problem. She ate truma after 40 days. The first 40 days, she's allowed to eat truma. Once it's recognizable that she has she's nisaber from the Israel, so then her eating truma from 40 days and on was a problem. Before 40 days wasn't a problem. Itmar. An interesting case over here. Abal rusasa b'beis chamuv. Let's say a man gets engaged to a woman, and he has bia with her. You're not supposed to have sex before you're married, but he does it before the beis chamuv in his father-in-law's house. Rav Amar Vlad Mamzer. Rav says the Vlad we choose a Mamzer. We assume she is mikudeshes to one man. We assume she had bia with somebody else. We assume that b'vade we consider the child of Mamzer. Shmuel Amar Vlad Shtuki. Shmuel says it's a suffix Mamzer. Shtuki, we're not sure. We tell everyone be quiet. We're not sure if it's a Mamzer. Suffix Mamzer. Amar Rav. Rav says Mistara Milsei de Rav the Daima Ma'alma. It makes sense what Rav says that we consider a Mamzer Vadai only when she's suspected. There's rumors going around that she's a mufkara, she's a zoma prostitute, she's being with a lot of men. If she's not considered a promiscuous woman, we don't have suspicion that there's not rumors going around that she's with other men, so therefore we assume it's him, and therefore it's not a mamzer at all. I'm a Rava, how do you know I'm telling you the truth? It says on our Mishnah, if she gave birth from this man, which was an extramarital affair, she gets to eat. If she's suspicious, she's with other men. Yalda my tochal. Why, if she gives birth to a child, right, she can eat, right? If she has raped or seduced by a Kohen, the Israelist, and she has a child with him, she can eat. Maybe it's not from the Kohen, maybe it's somebody else. Elav minei daim must be talking about she's only suspected of being together with the Kohen, v'lo daim ma'alma, and she's not suspected of being with other men. Umahasam de la hayisura there. She can't be married with other. A Panuya is not allowed to be together with a Pono. If they're both not married, it's also they're to have bia together. They're both usher to everyone. Basra Dide Shadina. We consider it the child of the Kohen, and she gets the Truma on account of that. If she has a child, Hachad Lahayit Surah Lahayit Tera. Here, when she's in Arusa, she's mutter technically midoraisa to the one she's mikudeshes to. Maybe the Rabbanan, she can't be with him, but she's usher to everybody else. Lo kol she can't. Certainly, we should say that she was nivelas to the one she's mutter to. Amalei Abaye lo minolach kol heicha the daima minei afagav lo daima ma'alma amarav v'lad mamzer. Abaye says not like Rav. He says even if she's only suspected of being with him, and even though there's no suspicions, no rumors floating around that she's with other men, even in that case, Rav would say the v'lad mamzer. My time, darminim the afkar nafshel gabe aras afkar nafshel alma, because the fact that she's not supposed to be together. I mean, the Rabbanan is not supposed to have bia with her fiance. He's not supposed to have to get bia with his fiance. I mean, a fiance, how's the man called? I don't know. So therefore, the Gabi Arus, she did something wrong. So therefore, we assume she probably did it to other men also. She's not worried about Yisurim. Masnisin, our Mishnah, we assume it comes from the Kohen. We don't assume it comes from other men. Shayu Shneim Chavush B'Yisurim. It's talking about a unique case where the Kohen and the Israelis were locked together in a jail cell. Usually, you don't have jail cells with men and women together. It's only possible from the Kohen. Okay, we're going to stop here. It's the end of today's shir. Hope you enjoyed today's shir. Stay tuned for Ian. Stick around for Ian Ben Sion. We're going to talk about the opposite case that we talked about Ian Ben Sion Daf Samach Ches. Here's the case, the nature of Yisrael is marrying a Kohen or having a child with a Kohen, her ability to eat Truma stemming both from the marriage to the Kohen and from having a child with the Kohen. Is there a difference? Not what's the nature? We'll get into that in Yom Sion coming up right now.